Hey there, film fans. I am Jeff.
I am Dave.
And I am John. And welcome back to Love of Cinema, a pod in which we'll challenge one another to discuss movies, both new and old, with a strictly positive critical eye.
That's right. And to avoid any lazy negativity, we are making this a drinking game.
Drink!
So anytime we say anything negative or stupid about a film, you're going to hear this sound, which means that one or all of us are going to be taking a drink to make sure this podcast stays nice and positive. That's my speech.
So pour yourselves a glass, join us, and give it up for the films we love, and perhaps the films that need some love. This week.
Yeah. Well, that's what I said. I was like, we're going to keep this positive. And then I was like, we're talking about one of the best movies of all time. So, of course, it's going to be fucking positive. But we also, you know what? We should say off the bat that we do have another, we have a gush alarm in case we talk too much. So don't think we're just going to be sitting here only saying nice, like lovey-dovey, flowery stuff, all right? Because if you hear the gush alarm, you're going to have to take a drink. And you know, John, that's going to hit you sooner rather than later, I imagine. But before we get into the films from the year 1968, year 1968. Before we get into those films, we're going to kick it over to John for some shout outs.
All right, as always, we want to thank our beer sponsor. By the way, Jeff and Dave, Carlos made some beers just for us. I'm not up there, so you guys should figure out a way to pick them up.
Dave.
From. He made a huge batch just for the podcast, so he told me to let
I got
you
a
guys
car.
know. Carlos,
I just got a car. We're gonna swing by.
Dude,
We're gonna pick them up.
You've got to pick him up. He told me he's ready to get it to you guys, so please fucking do that. You can give Carlos Barroso a follow. His handle on Instagram is cbarrozobar2019. That's CBARROZOBAR 2019. And as always, the music you hear on this episode and every episode is provided by the artist Dasein. That's Dasein, Dasein. You can find all the music available for free downloads at soundcloud.com/Dasein-artist. Good God.
Yeah. All right. Well, before we get into the film year of 1968, we're gonna do. We can add news to this segment. If anybody has a news segment you wanna add to our weekly "What Have You Been Watching" segment. So why don't we go ahead and start, as usual, with Dave. What you been watching?
It's been a slow news week, so there's not too much except for Batman getting COVID.
Yeah, hang in there, Robert.
Yeah. Wait, I know he's Batman getting COVID, but. Come on, Tenet. That's all we care about. He's in Tenet, all right? Yeah. Nobody ever gave a shit about what happened to Tenet.
I heard he's in Tenet.
Yeah, I heard he's in Tenet.
When does that come out?
But that's right. Batman got COVID.
Yeah. This week I had a big TV week. The only movie I watched. I put it on while I was working in the background, as I want to do, and that was Resident Evil Afterlife. And I couldn't even leave the fucking thing on while I was working. I had to turn it off. It was so bad.
Oh no! There's the buzzer. Yeah.
Yeah, that's quite a franchise. And somehow Resident Evil didn't make it into our franchise face-off, you guys.
I can't imagine. Well, yeah, I'm sorry. 1 and 6 is not a good ratio.
Honestly, that is it, dude. We should all drink, I guess, because there is only one good Resident Evil movie.
Dave, I can't believe that you haven't started The Boys season 2, which
I have. I started The Boys tonight, actually, just before the podcast, so I'm fucking pumped. It's just
a little weird to say I've started The Boys. I'm in The Boys.
No, I'm good with it. I'm good with it. I'm embracing The Boys.
How deep are you in The Boys?
Only one in.
Okay.
Oh
yeah. Just went with that. Can't buzz that.
Sorry, Mom and Dad. Love you guys.
Also, he's only one in.
I started watching the 12 Monkeys series based off the movie.
Oh.
That holds up. It's not bad. They twisted it around a little bit, and also of course Raised by Wolves, which I've been waiting to see what comes of that. And I'm 2 episodes in. First one's a little, you're not quite sure where this is going, but by the time you get to the second one, you're hooked. If you're going to be hooked, you'll be hooked by 2.
All right.
Wow. Nice, dude.
Awesome. John?
I was a bad film fan this week. Again, I watched some more Star Trek, and I watched something that I cannot fucking remember what I watched. So clearly it was memorable.
What a memorable picture.
Responsible audience member I have been. Yeah, that's the shit out of me. I'm sorry, film fans. That was my bad. How about you,
Jeff? I'm
Jeff?
gonna come to you in the middle of a segment. I watched the first episode of 2 series. I watched the first ever episode of The Umbrella Academy, which I'm going to go ahead and say did not catch me, but it did the thing where it starts in a really dramatic place.
Yep.
And I just, it gets fun by the end of it. I just don't know because season 2's out. I don't know if I'm going to give it 20 hours, but it does look really, 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 really fun. So kudos to everybody that's on The Umbrella Academy.
I've given that 20 hours. It's worth it. Was for me.
Yeah. Good. I also wanted to. I love Kate Blanchett, and I had been putting off Mrs. America, so I watched the first episode of that, and I'm happy to keep going with that. But I loved season 1 of The Boys. So where am I going to go next week? Am I going to go Mrs. America? Am I going to go The Boys? Tune in next week to find out. What I did watch,
there's only 3 episodes of The Boys out at the moment, so you can take a week off.
I forgot they're doing the Hulu thing. Thank you for pivoting, Amazon. That's awesome. I had another long drive. I've been driving a lot this summer, hence why I got this car. And there's a podcast. We never shout out podcasts because fuck our competition. But there's a podcast that was a one-off that I highly recommend to everybody called Dr. Death. If you have a drive, because I was like bored in the car and I was like, oh, fuck, like I just wish we were there. I wish I wasn't driving. What should we listen to? And it's basically about this doctor that went all around the South, especially in Texas. And he has to be some kind of narcissistic sociopath. He's a neurosurgeon, but he sucks at neurosurgery. So all of his patients either get paralyzed or die. It's really sad and dramatic, but he gets away with it and he keeps performing surgeries and he goes from hospital to hospital.
We had one of those in Australia.
He loses screws in people's bodies. So screws that he's supposed to put into people's spines are just lost in their bodies and stuff. Like he is terrible, but he keeps practicing medicine. Anyway, Dr. Death, I highly recommend it.
Yeah, how do you
How
do you fake your medical resume? Fuck.
I know, Dave. I'm telling you. I don't know. John, go
ahead.
I'm
going to put that on my list.
Get it out, John.
I watched that CNN documentary. It's a feature film documentary called On the Trail about several different female correspondents who were on the trail for the Democratic campaign leading into what's been happening since then. It's on HBO Max. Awesome. I thought it was really cool. It shows a lot of behind the scenes stuff, not just faces you're used to seeing, but some embeds and people behind the scenes and stuff.
Yeah.
All women, diverse, of course. Nice. It was really interesting. I really enjoyed that. Yeah, I was happy to watch it.
Awesome. Fuck fascism. All right, here we go. We are going to get into the film year 1968. This was the random year generator that Dave's random year generator brought up for us. We started doing this after our coronavirus franchise face-off happened, which has already been shouted out. If you are curious to know what we thought was the greatest franchise of all time, having spent so much time rewatching dozens of franchises, go back in our feed and look at our franchise face up. When this ended, new movies weren't coming out. So we're basically going through the years randomly, picking out 3 pictures that we think need a second look, things that we could talk about on the podcast here. So the random year generator took 1968 for us. Now,
so we picked a nice obscure one for the first film.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. 1967 changed film altogether because The Graduates and Bonnie and Clyde, they broke the studio system mold a little bit. Independent features, all of a sudden, we're getting award show buzz. So you can see in 1968, you get some more of that. The highest grossing film of 1968. Did either of you come across what is the highest grossing film of 1968?
What is it?
According to thenumbers.com and Wikipedia, it's actually Funny Girl.
Oh, that makes sense. That makes sense.
I figured it would be one of the musicals.
Yeah.
Good
Barbra
year.
Streisand. Barbra Streisand tied. This is Barbra Streisand's breakout. If you know who Barbra Streisand is as a singer or an actress, it's because of Funny Girl 1968.
And if you don't,
tied. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, everybody from Long Island just said go fuck off. So Barbra Streisand tied with Katharine Hepburn for The Lion in Winter for Best Actress at the Oscars, right? Number 2, and we'll have to break this down more, but number 2, it says, is one of our films, which is 2001: A Space Odyssey. Now, I know, and I know that you know, that this film did not release well at first, and then it re-released, and basically the film's just staying around, and let's go ahead and say LSD definitely helped, so that over time, eventually, a lot of people started to see it. But after that, you got The Odd Couple with Jack Lemmon and Walter Matthau. You've got another one of our films. You've got a Romeo and Juliet. You've got Planet of the Apes, Rosemary's Baby, The Green Berets, Lion in Winter, maybe some films you've heard or not heard. The Thomas Crown Affair, not the one with Pierce Brosnan. This is the original Thomas Crown Affair is in there. Finian's Rainbow. I read something really funny, which is, so we have a musical in our list. If you've obviously looked at the episode title, you will know that. And in Wikipedia, when you type in the film year 1968, spoiler for our pod, it says basically 1968 is a great year because 2001: A Space Odyssey came out this year. And also, it was a great year for movie musicals featuring 2 fantastic movie musicals, Funny Girl and Oliver. It does not mention Chitty Chitty Bang Bang as one of the great musicals in this great musical year.
Or
Oh, no.
Finian's Rainbow.
Or Finian's Rainbow, which is,
Coppola.
exactly.
Coppola's
Oh,
directed that, right?
Chitty's The
Yeah.
Dark Knight
Oh my
Rises.
God,
of
you're right.
Batman.
Holy shit. Yeah, that was early
Yeah.
for him too.
Yeah.
So anyway, we have decided, Oliver the musical won Best Picture and Best Director. I mean, how could 2001 possibly compete with Oliver at the Oscars?
Yeah.
I don't even think Kubrick was nominated for Best Director. Anyway, here we go. So we're going to talk about 2001: A Space Odyssey first. Second movie we're going to talk about is Bullitt, Bullitt. Now, a lot of people may recognize the name if you're looking at the episode title. It is actually more famous of a movie than you thought. It is the 4th highest grossing film of this year. And Steve McQueen's Mustang that he drove in this movie is considered to be one of the most famous cars in cinema history. Obviously, it does not beat the DeLorean, but it is very high up there. So this Mustang is very, very famous. The Bullitt chase scene is it's a very, very famous film with Steve McQueen. So I really hope you stick around for that part of our podcast. We're going to talk about that second. And then we usually reserve the third film to be our redemption feature, which is our Was It Really That Bad? Now, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, generally speaking, is beloved in ways. It's not beloved in the way that The Sound of Music.
In all fairness, I think we should change the segment name this week to Was It Only Good Because I Was 5?
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say. The question is it only good because I was 5? Dave, you just nailed it. All right. So we are going to give that another look as full grown ass adults. Also, 2 of us have BFAs in musical theater. So, maybe it's going to be worth hearing what we have to say about
I also have
I
a sweet FA in musical theater.
A sweet FA? Is that the Australian version or is that... It doesn't matter. Anyway, so stick around for all these segments. Jump around if you like. We are obviously going to start with one of the great films of all time, 2001: A Space Odyssey. This may or may not be one of John's favorite films. I will not speak for him.
It's up there,
but
I'm sure.
Let's go ahead, because so a lot of people talk about what it means and all this kind of stuff. Let's just go with impressions first, maybe, and then that'll sort of... So I also don't know where to start the film. I wrote down some things off the bat just to ease us into it. Here we go. So I actually watched this with my family and with Chloe. My dad was fucking hyped to watch this movie again with the score on. He was so stoked.
Dude.
The film starts. It has the opening sequence with it
is the most.
And then
it is the most
Yeah.
famous theme on the planet. Can I just say,
And then-
have I told you the story behind this? The theme?
Damn it. No, but wait, hold on one second. I just wanted to segue into this by saying, Chloe asked me after it pops up and it says The Dawn of Man. And she says, oh, wait, is this a comedy? And I went, no, but I get it. I see it. She thought, she was like, this looks like a Mel Brooks movie. And I was like, you're exactly right.
Well, has she
but-
seen History of the World?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
exactly right. Yeah, exactly.
No, it's funny. I have
I wrote down this is National Geographic meets The Lion King meets Tarzan. But then again, that was only for the first segment. Anyway, the movie opens with apes and prehistoric man, and then it jumps thousands of years into the future, and we're in space. What were your first impressions, Dave? You have a story to tell.
I do.
Let's
It's funny.
Let's first, real fast, before you say that, let's just say very quickly so we can get this out of the way.
We don't want to hear Dave's story
blurb,
anyway.
The little
We
IMDb
don't.
blurb says
Is it worth it?
after discovering a mysterious artifact buried beneath the lunar surface, mankind sets off on a quest to find its origins with help from intelligent supercomputer HAL 9000, the HAL 9000.
Yeah, if you haven't seen this movie, I don't know how much that helps, but that's sort of what happens.
Well, I just want to get that out of the way because that's what we're going to talk about.
You
Dave,
don't even meet Hal till an hour and 20 in, so it's like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, I remember I think I remember the first time Jeff saw this. I believe, because it was when we were all living together in the apartment. And you came home at, I think it was like 11:30 at night, and I had a 6 a.m. call the next morning. So at 4:30 in the morning, wake up, and at midnight, John suggested you watch 2001. And
We were actually at a bar when John told every
yeah.
single person at the bar that I was about to
And
go watch
my
this for the
bedroom
first
is
time.
right next to the living room. So these guys have come home, and I'm laying there peacefully asleep, and suddenly I've been jolted awake by. I sat bolt upright in bed, realized what was going on, and went, "No, that's fucking fair. That's the only way to listen to that," and went back to sleep.
Yeah. I think you came out and joined us for a little bit of it.
A little bit.
You were like, "Fuck it." I know I felt so bad.
No, but it's true. That is the only way to when you're going to put this on, turn it up at the beginning. It's so worth it. Like, it gets you into it, dude. And you've got a bit to get through at the beginning.
So what was your first?
Yeah,
was it,
talk
wait,
to
John,
me about.
we'll wait on you because we know you love this movie. Dave, what was your first impression like?
Well, I mean, I think everyone's first impression, if you're one of the 100 people who haven't seen this movie, is don't worry, you did not hit play on Planet of the Apes by mistake. Just give it a minute. There's a reason for what's going on. And it doesn't start, and it's really funny because like there's this whole beginning at the dawn of man, and there's no dialogue. And you're sitting there and you're like, what the fuck is happening? Like, I thought I was watching a science fiction movie. And it's almost like Kubrick went, yeah, I know what you've come here to see, but you're going to fucking see it my way, and you're going to see it when I want you to see it. And that's the kind of direction that, like, for instance, my favorite movie, Scott Pilgrim, with like directed by Edgar Wright, he was like, I'm going to make this movie the way I want to fucking make it. So I can't really not respect that, in that he took his time, he's new, and he almost sat there until you forgot there was a world outside.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Yeah,
John, go off. Do you want to start with setup about like?
No, I mean, I honestly, like, how do you? Anyone who has seen this movie, like, we're not going to hit it all, you guys. I've been intimidated by having this conversation. This is arguably my favorite film. I don't really know how to talk about it in 20 or 30 minutes. I do want to hear what you guys thought, especially after seeing it more than once. I did want to ask you, just to clarify really quickly, this might be a fun jumping off point. Did you watch the version on HBO Max, or did you buy the version that has the entr'acte and the overture? It's not really an overture. It's music that plays over a black screen before the movie starts. I mean, it's not really an overture. But
I watched the one on HBO Max with the intermission and the entr'acte in the second half.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Okay, so this movie, if you would have gone to see it in 1968, and they do it with some special screenings now, and you can buy this version. It's about 6 minutes longer, and it has an overture and it has an entr'acte, and it's the music with the weird, I don't know how to pronounce his name, Gheorghe Ligeti. So it's the weird choral music that he plays in his really tense parts throughout the film, where bad shit is happening, the horror music.
I think The Witch stole that sequence for
Honestly,
their chanting
I mean,
sequences.
it is very similar stuff. And so if you would have gone to see this movie, the first 5 minutes, you're sitting there in a total black theater, black screen, and this music starts playing. And there's no, you have no idea what is happening, and there's no visual cues at all, and he just makes you sit there and deal with it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I feel like
I gotta wonder how many freakouts there were.
How do you do what?
I gotta wonder how many freakouts there were in the first 5 minutes of this film.
I mean, I'm sure you guys looked up some of the trivia and stuff too. Rock Hudson and some other big celebrities walked out of the premiere saying what is this? And they just
I'm talking about people who are high as fuck and sitting there in the dark listening to this music, and then all of a sudden that kicks in. It's like,
what the fuck? It's pretty cool. I recommend it. Yeah. So
I mean,
let's talk. Why don't we talk about this first? Because I think it's hard to talk about 2001 without talking about Stanley Kubrick. It's kind of all of his movies are so him, right? It's the way he approaches them. It's the way when people talk about his movies.
Has he done other things?
He's one of
all right, fine.
He's one of those rare auteurs, I think, that has really nailed every movie. He tackles different genres with each film. All of his movies are a different genre, and this is his sci-fi movie. So it's almost like when you're looking back, you can't help but want to just deep dive into all the research he's did, all the years it took, his collaboration with Arthur C. Clarke, which was unprecedented. Sorry for using that word. I know everyone on Earth is sick of that fucking word right now, but it was the first time
this movie is as unprecedented as a film that can possibly be.
Yeah. So it's kind of hard not to talk about him when you're talking about
Yeah.
it, but I kind of just wanted to open this up and be a little bit more obtuse with our conversation and ask you guys how you feel about. I'm glad you said it when I was like, let's just read the blurb, because I think you're getting into an important place with storytelling, and maybe use that dirty word art, and maybe even the nasty word masterpiece, when you cannot describe what a movie is about or what a story is about by telling them what the plot is. So when you explain what 2001 is to someone who has never seen it before, it's like explaining what tripping is. It's like explaining what sex is. It's like explaining what something that has to be experienced.
I don't know if that's a relevant example, because the same could be said of Candyman.
in the total opposite,
fine.
in the total opposite way. Yeah. So I don't know. That's kind of what I kept thinking about when we were going to have this conversation. I was like, what is the main thing that we're probably going to end up talking about? As usual, we could sit here and talk about all the tech specs. He broke molds with miniatures and layovers that Dave could probably talk about, and they're very interesting.
And I will.
But it's not the juice of this film, because everyone can use those same tools. Technically, he's got a camera and he's working with miniatures. Why did he make this movie? Why is it better than any other B sci-fi movie that has used those same kind of techniques, just not as well or not the same way? Like, what do you think it is about this story and the way he tells it that separates it from maybe every other sci-fi movie? What is it?
Dave?
He did it first.
Well, he did, but there's tons of those B sci-fi movies, right?
I mean, there's tons of those big sci-fi movies, but again, like with the visual effects, they did pioneer some stuff in regards to like the models and the composites and that sort of thing. Like this is 1968. You don't have fucking computers. Every piece of magic you're doing on camera has to happen in camera.
Yeah,
it's
like,
so weird.
It's something that we're kind of moving back towards, to be honest, with the new like volume, like live backgrounds and stuff like that. But in the case of something as simple as a floating pen, which happens in like one of the very
how
first
did
scenes.
He do that?
You want to know how he did that?
I kind of do want to know.
Yeah.
The pen is attached to a piece of glass that was mounted in front of the camera that was moving and rotating. And she plucked the pen off the glass.
And so the stewardess just picks it off the glass?
Yeah. But it's
So
again,
easy.
it's something that's so simple, but you wouldn't think of it off the cuff. It's like, how the fuck do we make a pen float in thin air?
I'm sure he did a lot of trial and error too, because this movie took 4 years.
Fun fact, the designs of the ships and everything were designed by like aerospace engineers. It was so detailed that NASA started referring to the studio as NASA East.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
when
were
fucking
you there-
astronauts are like
Arthur C.
including you in a joke, it's like, you've made it.
So Arthur C. Clarke has an aeronautics background. So
The
that was the
co-script
first-
writer of the film.
yeah, the co-script writer, sci-fi novelist who got involved. We'll come back to him, of course, but he has the aeronautics background, so it opened some doors for Stanley, who had already, he just made Doctor Strangelove, had enormous success with that, and really did tackle the subject matter that had to do with a lot of federal government decision making in that film, and ended up being very successful.
And Paths
So
of Glory, he already had a couple hits. Even
Absolutely.
The Killing, Barry Lyndon, he had big movies.
Definitely had big movies, but this was the first time the government knew. So think about when this was being made, folks, if anyone who's following along. The Apollo missions are happening all throughout the late 50s and 60s, right? So Stanley Kubrick announces that he's beginning, they make a deal in May of 1964, Arthur C. Clarke and Stanley Kubrick. They have finally decided, we're definitely going to do this. We have an idea. We're going to start developing it. NASA is in the midst of the Apollo, series. So they know, they're not stupid. Part of their mission, their PR department, is to get people ready for this next step of mankind. What's going to happen when we literally have now done it, when we have succeeded? They knew their schedule was going to have them landing on the moon in 1969. And Stanley Kubrick was greenlit to make this movie that was going to be coming out before then. So yeah, they threw their weight behind it. The studios and them were working in tandem. You can't tell the difference when you look at the making of footage. Here it comes. Here it comes. Here comes the gush.
Oh my God,
I'm
the
gushing.
gush.
I don't even fucking care. I'll gush all day on this motherfucker. You can't even tell the difference when you're looking at you can't tell if you're looking at an actual lunar module, because everyone is dressed in the same protective white lab clothing in the studios, the special effects department, and NASA. It's crazy. There's so much good footage. I recommend everybody go watch it.
They built like a 35-foot rotating Ferris wheel for one of the for the shot. It almost killed a physicist.
And they strapped people in so it looked like they were just sitting at their desk casually. Yeah. They were really going upside down.
Stunt people are hanging upside down for like half an hour at a time because Kubrick does like to torture his people.
Yeah. Yeah, we should definitely talk a little bit about what he did for film, like in space, if you will. So one of my takeaways from this, which hopefully will give our audience a little context too, is I was thinking the entire time, this came out 9 years before Star Wars.
Yeah.
I think Star Wars is the seminal space film for a lot of us. Now, I don't know if in the 70s there are any other movies that went to space. And I'm going to guess, I don't know, but a lot of people that walked out in 1968 didn't understand how slow things happen in space when you're talking about the moon and a ship and a docking sequence that it takes fucking forever. We've all seen Apollo 13. We've all seen Gravity. We've all seen Interstellar by this point. This came 40 years before Interstellar, where he was contacted by NASA. We saw this at the Museum for Film.
Museum of Moving Image.
The moving image. I actually think it was when we saw Sweetback, which is part of a festival that we were all a part of. They had letters from NASA because NASA was contacting them about their research because they were trying to come up with the idea of creating your own gravity in space, which you'll see in Interstellar with basically the spinning spaceship, so that people aren't just floating in space for years, basically. And so NASA was basically contacting them, being like, where did you get this research from? They were in contact with each other. It was so ridiculous. But watching the docking sequences, which are set to the famous Richard Strauss Blue Danube, I think is what it's called, which is that's
actually been referenced in one of the most popular video games ever as well. There was a video game
the docking sequence.
Yeah, there was a video game made for the BBC microcomputer called Elite, and it was then ported over to other computer games. And every time you docked at a space station, you have to match the rotation, and if that music would come on, it was
play that music. Yeah.
So I mean, I don't want to just
like
get
we're
into
talking a game so old it had wireframe graphics, but
right. So just in case people aren't picturing it, I don't want to get too specific on it, but just to say this happened first is the rush to market. But let's just go ahead and say in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, they're flying a car in space, and that's not fucking space. And I know that, right? So the fact that in the future, I can look back and still say, this is just as realistic as Interstellar, which had CGI. This is just as realistic as First Man, which I saw in 3D IMAX. And this was done with miniatures in 1968. It was so realistic. The things in Star Wars where you see the guys, like when a ship is coming in and they're just on these platforms, kind of like staring into like the core of the space station as ships come in. And I'm like, he came up with this first because he did the math. He actually put down on paper what are the cause and effects of every single possible thing we could do. So it's just what I'm getting at is it's realistic.
That's two.
I'm gushing. Great.
Yeah,
So even though the story itself, it's about HAL, which is a computer. It's basically if Siri could come to life and control you on a spaceship. Even though that's what a lot of people refer to as the story, the reason that I would recommend the movie, the reason you should give it another rewatch, the reason you should give it your time is because it's so realistic that it takes you to another world, which is ultimately what you want from movies.
It really is. I'm going to say this now because I think that's the perfect thing. You commented earlier that it had a hard opening. It did not open well. Critically, it was even mixed. Some critics fucking loved it, of course, and some were like, what the fuck? They still just weren't. We talk about this on this pod quite a bit, but there are some genres that just cannot bust through. They cannot get through to critics in the Academy Awards. Kubrick was nominated for a few. He was nominated for direction, but this movie was not even. He was nominated for direction.
Effects.
He won special effects. This movie was not even nominated for Best Picture.
There were it was not even considered. Two nominees in '69 for Best Visual Effects. There was 2001. And Ice Station Zebra. Can you imagine being the guys who worked on Ice Station Zebra going, hey, we got nominated for an Oscar. Who else is nominated? Oh, fuck.
It's like
he created gravity in space before NASA.
The zebra gum bit in Family Guy. So I was gonna say it had a hard opening, and Kubrick realized as it was going on, this is the late 60s, counterculture movement, hippies, LSD was huge. It started attracting a lot of young people, and he caught on to that. And Kubrick, who was fucking heavily involved with every single aspect of his movies, even in the exhibition, changed the way it started being marketed, and he added a subtitle, or it's not a subtitle, a caption underneath the title for all of the posters everywhere. The ultimate trip. And it got people, especially in the younger demographics, to start coming. And I mean, it is true. So like whether or not he caught on to that and used it as a marketing, as a marketing tool, he had that. I mean, all of his movies, I think, have that. But you really do feel, for one thing, you travel across. No movie has covered this much time.
I mean,
this covers.
Yeah, there's a thing when you're studying cinema, when you're being taught like cinema techniques and stuff. It's like the best cinema can communicate something without dialogue. If you can communicate it through action or inaction or in camera or something, your actor can communicate that without dialogue. The original screenplay for this film is only 65 pages long.
John, this looks like one of your screenplays.
Yeah, this film runs for 164 minutes, and 88 minutes of that is dialogue free. There is no dialogue for 88 minutes of this film. Like half the film has no dialogue.
And it's so important, though, isn't it? Like, I feel like all right, so when Kubrick first wrote a letter, a telegraph or whatever to Arthur C. Clarke, who was living in like Sri Lanka or some shit like that, he basically said to him, I am interested in making the proverbial good sci-fi movie. It had not been done yet. He was just, geeking out real hard on sci-fi movies at the time. He knew he wanted to tackle that subject matter. And Arthur C. Clarke, when they finally started working together, Arthur C. Clarke recommended some like older, sci-fi movies and B sci-fi movies. And apparently Kubrick was quoted after seeing a couple saying, I'll never take his recommendations for film again because they're all terrible. And so even then he realized he knew what he was trying to do. He was trying to make, just like he does with all of his other genre films, he was trying to make, God, how does it not sound pretentious? It's not because he pulls it off, but like he was trying to make a higher elevated masterpiece artistic version of these stories. So unlike Star Wars, which is awesome, the first one did something I think once again,
I don't know if he even thought about that. I think it was like, if you're gonna do it, fucking do it right.
Fucking do it right.
Even if you're the first, don't just be the
George
first.
Lucas went for the space opera, right? He was going to go for
the space samurai
film. He was going to have fun. And there's a few elements that I think are really worth
the samurai
pointing out.
Opera in space.
Yeah, samurai opera in space. Kubrick, again, like most of his work, was unafraid of the terror of space. So Star Wars is fun, right? Like it's constantly fun. There is not a John Williams score playing in space in 2001. It's fucking silent.
Yeah.
Right. So there are things like that. You can see
like
how he starts to work
like 8
with
minutes
elements.
of breathing at one point.
Just breathing. Yeah. Just
and
the
I'll tell you how, like
loneliness.
There are some secret, like, because I'm big on the pacing. I've been spoiled by a lot of modern film now, and I've kind of, you don't want to sit there for the whole fucking journey. But like there are some times, like when they go out to repair the dish on the ship, and like I got up and made a cup of tea and sat back down, and he still wasn't at the dish. So it's like they covered the whole leaving the ship, getting out of, floating towards the dish. Like it gives you space in real time.
It does give you space in real time, which I know we've also chit-chatted about that before, just in general. Whenever we talk about movies that are older, people used to go see movies differently. People who were adults when they were seeing this movie in 1968 grew up at a time period where you would go see, as a kid in the 30s, 40s, you would have gone and seen a newsreel, 2 shorts, and maybe a double feature.
And this thing,
so they had been primed to have a different kind of movie experience. That's why I think when I first saw this, the first time I saw this, I was shocked by the shamelessness of expecting you to sit still. Now, he didn't just do it and put his hands like this. I still feel like this movie is extremely compelling, even though some things are slow, especially with the way we compare it to nowadays. But everything we're talking about, the way he uses the elements, it still remains extremely compelling. It still is scary. It still is suspenseful. It still keeps you going the entire time intellectually. But, which is what I think B sci-fi movies don't do.
If you watch it on streaming, you lose a little bit of the effect. But if you, like, in the context of when this movie was made, going to the theater was going to the theater. It was the same as going and seeing a Broadway show. There was an intermission.
Yeah.
The first act was 90 minutes. The second act was an hour. Like this, and you look at it, that and Chitty Chitty Bang Bang later. Like the first act is 90 minutes. The second after the intermission, where they literally say intermission in the film, is like an hour. And they're set up structurally. And like, so going to see these films at this time was a different experience. It's not like just something you rock up, you buy your popcorn, you go in, you walk out and you forget it 5 minutes later. This was a fucking event.
Mhm.
Yeah. I also think this is the first time. Sorry, Jeff. I want to ask you a question after this. I also think this was the first time a movie this successful and made by someone with his clout at the time very intentionally ended a film with you where the goal was you're not supposed to understand what happened. It was not told with, obviously it wasn't told with conventional storytelling techniques, although it still uses Kubrick's 6 sequence act kind of structure, which is in all of his films. But this one specific, I think there's a quote from Arthur C. Clarke where he says, "If you understood completely, then we failed."
Mhm.
And I think that says something for everybody who goes to see movies like this. And this, this will open a door to a whole kind of world cinema and stuff where people are really able to tell these kinds of stories more often. Tell me about like something like Interstellar. What do you guys think is the difference between the way Chris Nolan feels like he has to tell stories or chooses to tell stories and what Stanley Kubrick chose to do with this? They both use mind-bendy kind of stuff. They like playing with sci-fi and technology and how it affects humans, philosophy, religion, theocracy, government. But what is the difference? I feel like when you walk out of a Chris Nolan movie, do you feel like you have a little bit more grip on what he wanted you to feel than after you finish a movie like this? Like, do you feel like if a movie like this came out nowadays, somebody like Chris Nolan could sell it? Or was this just because Stanley Kubrick was special and it was the perfect time, the space race, the counterculture? Do you think this was a time capsule?
I mean, both. I think for sure. It's funny. I thought about Interstellar a lot, not just because of the making your own gravity that I said before, but also Interstellar pulls on Carl Sagan's theories a lot. And Kubrick has all of them in his movie, and this is before Sagan was super famous. His writings began in the 60s, but he wasn't really getting famous until 70s, and then Cosmos came out in the 80s. So this is kind of ahead of that. So like wormholes, which is kind of what happens in that very trippy almost final act of this film when he's near the moons of Jupiter and there's just light on both sides and he just loses all time and space.
The iPhone commercial?
Yeah, the iPhone commercial. That's exactly right. Buzz yourself for that. We can't have a buzz free section. You're gonna make a joke like that. You gotta buzz yourself. God damn it. And then so I think he's willing to go. I think Kubrick was willing to go a little bit deeper. I don't want to speak to Interstellar because I haven't seen it in a while, but it did seem like he asked a lot of questions and then the answer to all of them was love. And that's fine. It's very touching. It was a very personal film to Christopher Nolan. And I love Interstellar. The score is great. It's fantastic. But ultimately, I don't really know what Kubrick was going for. I feel like he was going for so many different things. And he, in his mind, has that central thing that we are going to be dancing around forever and not necessarily knowing exactly what. That I think makes this enticing. Now, it is polarizing too, because sometimes you want to see a movie and you want to leave that movie and just go home and go to sleep and say that was good. Sometimes you don't want to sit there and go, what the fuck was the point of the monkeys? Was this just to give Andy Serkis a career in the future? Like sometimes you know, like what is the final act? Like, why did he see himself 5 different times and then he's dead and then he's a baby? Is that him? I don't know. Like some people don't want that in the movies.
Kubrick did actually explain that at some point.
Yeah, but so I think the fun thing about this is that he asked questions that were so big and with instead of pulling a Lost, which is you get led astray and then you don't know how to answer them, so you just sort of pull out. He just doesn't give a fuck if you care or if you figure it out ever. And I think there's something ballsy about that. And he knew he was going to lose people. I don't know if Chris Nolan knew he was going to lose people.
Yeah, I think that's why it's so genius is because if you. Here he goes with the meta comment again, but he knew this from the beginning, and you can read documentation of his conversations with Arthur C. Clarke. If the whole point of this, the Odyssey, like it's in the title, I'm not picking on Chris Nolan. I like Interstellar, but I'm just trying to make a comparison about what separates big commercial cinema from gems like this and auteurs like this. If you're going to be making a movie about exploration, both of these are about exploration. How can the end of the story not come from the spirit of exploration, which is the unknown? It's that you are figuring out as you go, and you're usually just figuring out the next question. Jeff and I come from a theater background, as we kind of talked about earlier, and I'm sure we'll hit that hard when we get to Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. I remember when I first started reading Chekhov, I started getting the same feelings that I have when I watch my favorite auteurs that live in this world, that try to write stories that, as Chekhov says, our job is not to answer. It is only to bring up more questions and to ask them well and to explore them well. And I think that this movie and all of his work is something that is being lost right now, if I'm being totally honest. Like, I'm not saying we should have this all the time. I want a balanced diet. There are most nights when I don't want to watch this kind of movie.
I mean,
but if you don't ever allow yourself to deep dive into something like this and to really try to go to a place where you are getting more comfortable as an audience member, being a part of a ride and having more questions that you have to deal with personally at the end of it, I think you're missing out on what storytelling can do. And I'm just,
I mean, that's not entirely a correct statement, because these types of movies are still happening. It's just they're not selling because producers don't have faith in them anymore, and it's all about the marketing dollar now. It's like when we release a film, we have to recoup twice our marketing budget back, and we don't make any money. So if the audience isn't going to get it, then we're not going to sell it. So it's become a victim.
That's what I was saying earlier.
It's become a victim of dollars.
Well, this movie would not have been made had Stanley Kubrick at that time in his career said, "I'm making a sci-fi movie." Like, no one would have made this movie if somebody else wanted to make it, right? He was an independent filmmaker that got distributed by Warner Brothers. That was how he had his own company the entire time, from Lolita onward. So, yeah, I don't know.
It is risky too. You need a filmmaker who's really, because directors, especially, one movie can tank your career. A lot of actors, you already have your next 3 movies lined up or so it's not the same. But Doctor Strangelove was very, very successful. Paths of Glory, it wasn't as much his movie as it was Kirk Douglas, but he could have worked again. But he basically took 4 years of his life for this. It could have fucked everything up for him. So that's risky for a director to take. It's more likely that they would have done a Ryan Gosling movie, something like Damien Chazelle did. So I don't know. These were no stars movies. He didn't want any stars in this movie. All right.
So
anyway, Dave, what did you think about?
We're gonna wrap this up because we've gone I think this is the longest first segment we've ever had, hands down, and quite frankly, a deserving film. I will for a modern audience, if you're coming in, you're gonna watch this on streaming, and you're used to really fast-paced films. There is something really fun you can do. I recommend turning on the subtitles, grabbing yourself a drink, and every time music continues, turned up on the descriptive subtitles, drink.
That's good.
You will be wasted.
Yeah,
yes.
It's simpler.
Just after the intermission, you'll be wasted.
Than I thought.
Yeah.
I have so many other notes too. But I love the shadowing in this. I love the humor. Masters of the group.
Like, there's some subtle humor in there, like when they stop at the terminal and like there's Hilton signs in the background and stuff like that.
There's a Hilton sign, Hilton Space Station.
Like it's like the future, and people still shouting on their phones. And like when he goes, there's just a shot of him leaning near the zero-G toilet, just so they can show the sign that says passengers are advised to read instructions. And
I recommend reading them at some point. They wrote all of those out.
There's always a reason for every sign. The one thing I will leave you with is I'm pretty sure that this movie did for Dave's what the pandemic did for Karen's.
Oh, yeah.
Because holy fuck, did I get I'm sorry, I can't do that, Dave.
I can't do that.
Oh my god, that's good.
Like every time
I'm still getting it. I'm like,
Jeff, do you have
40
any
years
more?
later.
Fast before we go, do you have any other standout notes? Any like big thing that you wanted to mention, or this is the last time I might get to talk about this in a public setting?
I would say they invented FaceTime. They literally like, you're getting a call from your wife, and the one guy was like, "Ugh, fine, I'll fucking watch it." Another person was like, "It's your birthday message from your parents." They're like, just play it.
Isn't that interesting? The one thing he got so many things right technologically. The one thing that I think he missed overall was the idea of a personal tablet phone device that could do all of that stuff. They had access to all those things, but nobody carried
what a
device
miss,
with them.
Stanley.
I want their immigration system. It's like voice print
my God,
identification, please, and you're
document.
in. Thanks. Yeah, no, please give me that. Yeah.
No, the big nuts. It was great. Go watch it. It's simpler than I thought. It really was, and I think that's a good thing. Everybody, don't overcomplicate things. It's simple.
Yeah.
You can tell the entire story of mankind with A simple 6-act structure. Yeah, definitely do it. If you have not watched this movie, please sit down, take it seriously, and it's not there to entertain you. It's there to fuck you up. So
just watch it on HBO Max. It's there for free. Do it. Live your life. We'll see you in a second after we pee and refill after that very, very long but awesome segment. We're going to come back with Steve McQueen's Bullitt right after this. And we're back.
We're back.
And we're back.
That happened.
That was fun. Real fast. Just wanted to say, because I meant to shout it out during the segment, Jack Daniel, our recent guest co-host, texted us last week when he found out that we were going to be talking about 2001 to let us know that he saw 2001 for the first time as a child with his Sunday school class on a group field trip, which I just think is fucking awesome. Shout out to that fucking Sunday school teacher who took a bunch of fucking 10-year-olds to go see 2001. That is hilarious, dude.
It's like Dan Aykroyd in the Twilight Zone movie. It's like, you want to see something really scary?
I mean, honestly, those children. Can you imagine the look on their faces? Like, that is so funny.
My church seems so less fun in comparison.
Yeah, I didn't have that much fun in Sunday school. Damn it.
Oh my gosh.
Right.
We had so much fun talking about 2001. Thank you all for hanging with us. We are now going to be talking about a film that hopefully you've at least heard of called Bullitt, starring the one and only Steve McQueen, with a co-starring credit by Robert Vaughn, who is a surprisingly good supporting character / possible villain. Also, shout out to Robert Duvall. 4 years before The Godfather, has, I think, just one scene. But Bobby Duvall, get your film credits going. All right.
Hell yeah.
Bullets.
Yeah, that's Bullitt. Bull silent SHITT.
Dave just spelled out bullshit. I don't think he loved the film. We're going to go ahead and see. I'll give you the IMDb blurb about this, which is an all guts, no glory San Francisco cop becomes determined to find the underworld kingpin that killed the witness in his protection. That, of course, is Steve McQueen as the San Francisco cop, who is tasked with protecting a member of the mob community who is going to testify about the mob to Congress in, I believe, 48 hours, or is it 20? It's over the weekend.
Something like that, yeah.
And the witness, who is under 24-hour police protection to make sure that he can make it to the hearing, because they are pretty sure that the mob is going to try to kill the person who is going to flip on them. Guess what? The person gets killed while Steve McQueen is supposed to be watching him and protecting him. And then Steve McQueen basically seeks vengeance on the mob and all of those who are protecting the killers. He wants to find the killer of who killed his witness. And you also get a little political influence in there because there is a congressperson who really wants this to go smoothly, who doesn't think Bullitt is doing a very good job. So it's a very tense situation. If you're looking at it from a narrative point of view, it's really, really fun because the movie is Steve McQueen needs to protect Guy. So you think that's what the movie's about. And then about 30 to 45 minutes in, that guy gets killed. So the point of the movie gets flipped on its head and it now becomes who killed the witness. So I think they do a really cool job with the narrative element of that. Another thing to consider, this movie is considered a stylish mystery thriller. It's not a noir anymore. It has moved past that. We are now in the independent post-Bonnie and Clyde world. So it is very interesting. And you have Steve McQueen, who is more or less a heartthrob, trying to play against that as his like tough guy, like Bradley Cooper wants to win an Oscar, mob guy thing going on. Also, he is so badass that he thinks he can park his Mustang Fastback in front of fire hydrants. I don't know if you noticed that, but fuck this guy for not obeying fire laws. He parks this car right in front of fire hydrants.
Does.
I guess that's the only place where a space is available. Anyway, the Mustang Fastback is actually the star of the movie. But first impressions from our stylish mystery non-noir thriller. John or Dave, who would like to get us going?
All right. I will say straight up front, there's some great cinematography tricks in this. There's subtle bit there.
Yes.
Like there's like the reflection on the light at the beginning where they're showing the action. It pans out and it's actually a light in the room.
Yeah, the whole opening sequence
the
is
rotating
awesome.
door shot,
That's
that
awesome.
sort of thing. Cinematographer William A. Fraker, who went on to shoot War Games in the 80s.
Hey,
and
Matthew
the
Broderick.
now
Remember
infamous
Matthew Broderick?
1941.
Does not treat his waiters with respect. Something to remember about Matthew Broderick.
Yes, he
Wait
also
on your
he also
chicken fucking soup, Matthew Broderick.
Chicken soups come from scratch sometimes. They take 10 minutes. Give
he
him a
also
break.
okay. I feel like we missed the point. He also shot the 1941 the movie.
No.
Oh, no.
God.
Yeah,
Come
Oh,
on.
buzz him. Buzz him.
yeah. Take that, William A. Fraker.
1941. Look, some parts look kind
Okay,
of fun. I guess.
so this film won for best editing.
Yes.
Yeah.
I feel like they could have taken another 40 minutes out of it. It also,
Yeah, I think. Why do you think it won best editing? Do you think it's the chase scene?
I mean, no, it's
Yes,
well,
there's two chase sequences, really.
It
The car
won
chase
best
and then
editing. It was nominated for best sound, which is otherwise known as the Your Best Picture campaign wasn't good enough Oscar. So,
Ouch. Ouch. Oh, come on. There have been some great
That's
sound
not
awards.
True. Come on, like Dark Knight, a lot of war movies.
Yeah, there have been some great
I
war
will say
movies.
though, Robert Vaughn eats up his time on screen. He's phenomenal. I really
Yeah.
enjoyed him as like the villain, like this sort of the villain. He was the antagonist, not so much the villain, but the antagonist
Yeah.
in this movie.
He was the
this movie-
congressman. He was the congressman that really
yeah,
wanted
this movie
film.
didn't really start for me till about 35 minutes in. Everything before that just really fucking dragged.
Yeah.
I know you
I
mean,
mean,
but
you
the
gotta-
opening. Wait, but so I think they thought the opening sequence, which was entirely in the dark for the most part. I think they thought that would hook you. So what you're saying that it wasn't enough to carry you through 30 minutes
Dude,
of exposition?
there are
Is
so
that what
many
you're
things
saying?
that there's so many things that happen in this movie that make you go, well, "What was that?" And the answer just takes too long getting there. You're left confused. Like it bugged me
Yeah.
for almost a fucking hour why that guy took the chain off the door.
Oh yeah,
And
but I think
how
they're
did-
supposed to.
And,
though.
and,
I
and,
don't
I
mind
mean,
that.
at the end when they're in the airport, how did that gun get through the metal detector?
I don't know
like,
if metal
I'm
detectors
like,
were
there's
the
a-
same way in
There are
1968.
no, they detected fucking metal, dude. A gun is made of metal. It's like it's a giant lump of metal in your fucking carry-on. Like,
Yeah, okay, all right,
yeah,
all right. You're
seriously
right, you're right.
though, like if they cut all the driving scenes, not counting the car chase, this movie would have been an hour 20. Like it had more shots of cars than the fucking movie Cars.
They really did
that
love
sequence
their
was wild.
cars.
But
I don't know. I think
they
Chitty
wanted
Chitty
to go
Bang
for
Bang
it.
gives it a run for its money in car
Yeah,
coverage.
I don't know. Like he spent like it's like let's get in a car and drive around and go to a phone. Let's get in a taxi and drive around and go to this
Right.
place. But we're not actually doing anything. We're to get in a car and go somewhere else. And like,
Yeah, I mean,
there's
there's-
just so
well-
much. It reminded me of Star Wars Episode 1. There's like 2 hours of meandering stilted exposition with a fucking car chase crammed in the middle.
We just came from, I'm not going to agree with you 100%, but I do appreciate the sentiment. We just came from a conversation where we were talking about a movie that is intentionally slow, but there is stuff that is, experienced and
It holds your
revealed
attention
over long
Yeah.
sequences and slower shots and everything like that. There's a sequence in the middle of this movie where he decides, all right, you take the first watch. They all get the witness protection, or not witness protection, but witness protection. And they decide what order they're going to protect him in. And McQueen's like, you take the first one. I'm going to go home. I'll be back here in the morning. And it follows him home. And nothing happens. He goes home and he goes home and he drinks a little bit and he wakes up the next day and has a little breakfast with his girl. And then he comes back and he gets a call that he needs to come there. And I mean, this is me too. I love this kind of shit. If it's done well, like I don't mind atmospheric storytelling at all, but there were a few scenes in this, few sequences where I was like, I'm not sure why that's in this movie. I'm not sure. Yeah. I'll drink. But overall, I will say, again, I had to kind of put on my time capsule helmet because there is a lot of like 60s funk music that is just in this movie, whether it makes sense or not. It kind of dominates the tone and steers it in a certain direction. I personally think that opening sequence would work way better in silence or with a much more minimalistic score. I think it was a little more confusing than it needed to be because
let's
of
just
the way
focus-
that the music was pushing you into a certain tone. And I wanted to discover the movie and it was telling me how I should feel about it. And I'm not quite sure that music lined up with how I felt about what they were showing me with the exposition.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? They weren't tolling a line at the beginning as much. However, at 20, 30 minutes into it, I was in this movie.
Yeah, that's what I said.
McQueen
The
is one
first
of my
30
favorite
minutes
actors from the
drags.
60s. I fucking love this guy. I've loved him since I was a kid. Him and Charles Bronson, I thought they were just so fucking cool. I was just reading a little trivia about him, Jeff. 1955, there were like 1,000 people that auditioned for the Actors Studio, and McQueen and Martin Landau got in. They only let in like 5 people, and McQueen and Martin Landau were 2 of the dudes that Strasberg let in. And I think you can see it. Yes, he is cool. Yes, he's got a type, but that guy is grounded to pieces. I mean, I believed every single fucking breath he took on screen.
I just don't think they gave him a lot to work with.
I know what you mean, but that was, don't you feel like that was the kind of the style of, certainly this film, but this style of film for that period, that was kind of what it was like. I mean,
dude, I'm gonna kick this back to Dave. I'm gonna go with more of the same here. So you may know more about noirs than me. I was in City of Angels once, which I guess I had to watch a bunch, but I'm not gonna pretend like I know a lot about noir, but it does seem like this movie saw, I know I said Bonnie and Clyde in the intro, but Bonnie and Clyde was violent. It was pretty stark and pretty violent. They showed a lot of blood. This movie, for instance, they just showed like somebody got shot in the knee and the leg, and they just showed the wound. And like I bet you in 1968 they didn't show a lot of really bloody, like gross wounds like that. Do you think that they basically just wanted to take what you thought of a noir, which is, you know, very dark, very mysterious? We had a potential femme fatale in here. So you had a lot of the tropes of that sequence, very heavy, like, oh, you know, I'm going down the streets and I'm here in these streets and I'm looking for the man, but without any voiceover. They took all the voiceover out. They made it bloodier. So it's almost like they just threw this more violent, new, independent idea at what your expectations were from those 50s thrillers. What do you think about that kind of theory, Dave?
No, I mean, if you're gonna make noir, make noir. If you're gonna try and do something else, sure, try and do something else. But this literally spent a lot of time in a car.
Have you ever seen The French Connection?
Yes.
I think I kept thinking about French Connection when I was watching this. And I remember thinking, why does French Connection hit the fucking bullseye? And what is this? I enjoy this movie. I am not saying negative things about this movie. I think what is it? It has like a 7.4 rating on IMDb. Yeah, sure. I feel like it sits around a 7 for me. I enjoyed myself, but I remember thinking I wasn't like the whole time. There were very few sequences and moments where I was like, fuck yes. I understand why everybody loves this movie. I understand why it's gone down in the history books outside of McQueen. I think McQueen is awesome, and I thought, who else do you say? Robert Vaughn. I thought he did a good job, but
yeah, I feel like French Connection had a point. French Connection had a point. Like every scene advanced the plot in some way. There wasn't superfluous scenes.
And it was very similar too, where there's a lot of silence in the French Connection, and there's a lot of atmospheric stuff and very actory, character-driven kind of storytelling. Now, I'm not picking on Peter Yates, the director, or anybody else. This was the precipice for, as Jeff kind of set up at the beginning of this episode. Film was changing around this time, and they were letting actors drive stories in different ways than they had before. This is not a Hitchcock movie, right? This is not a suspense. This is not a John Huston noir. Yeah. This is something else. But I feel like this was kind of like an opening act to things that got much more interesting in the 70s. That started playing out this crime thriller genre.
You made a film
how do you use tones of noir?
Yeah, you made a film that inspired other things.
Place?
Like it's like, I mean, even like when you get to the point at the end of this movie, the big climax of the movie, it has the excitement equivalent of taxiing to the terminal at LAX. It's just fucking boring.
I wrote down that Die Hard made the terminal, like the let's run out on the airport sequence. Die Hard 2 made the airport terminal sequence more fun than this. Although it was really fun in the dark. I was like, man, this wishes it was North by Northwest meets Die Hard 2, and it didn't quite get there. But I mean, it was interesting.
I was left wondering, did Clint Eastwood do it better? Because Dirty Harry came out around like just after this, and like sure it might have inspired it, but like they really, really did it better.
Honestly, that's what I'm saying. I feel like this was Go for it, Jeff. I'm
Dude,
done.
you've-
Keep going.
Wait,
No,
sure?
fuck it. I've
Sorry.
already made the point.
What about the hospital sequence where I'm so sorry, I just ate like a sweetie and I didn't know that it was gonna make noise. What about the hospital sequence? It was very Godfather. You know, in the Godfather where Michael has to guard the witness, he has to like stay there in the hospital overnight. It was kind of like that at first, and then yes, you're right, Dave. It took way too long. It was like 12 minutes of them chasing this guy through the stairs. You didn't even know who he was. It turns out, everybody, they were using a doppelganger. Not to spoil too much, but that was pretty interesting. So it wasn't actually the witness who died. Not to spoil. This is so weird that you'll forget about it as soon as you start the movie. Don't worry about it. But anyway, there's like this weird hospital chase sequence in the dark where he's supposed to be protecting the witness, but the guy's lost in the hospital. That I thought it came across really well. Almost like, what if Michael Corleone actually had a mob interaction chasing through the hospital? What do you think?
That sequence was great, and it was 15 minutes in a 2-hour movie. Like,
right. So it's almost like they should have earned those 15-minute sequences rather than make every single thing in this movie a 15-minute sequence like that.
Yeah, and some of those 15-minute sequences had no point whatsoever.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I feel like this movie is a good example of this new Hollywood thing that was happening around this time. Again, I it's hard to judge them because like we're looking back now. This was all brand new when they were trying it. So some of the films worked better than others. We talked about how fucking Francis Ford Coppola made a movie this year that did not do well. And granted, it was a musical. It was not a noir mobster movie or a murder mystery, but there were these younger directors who were saying, you know what, we're going to try to drive storytelling in cinema completely differently. We're not going to rely on style. We're not going to rely on style or these gigantic set pieces inside production studios. We're going to go on location and we're going to follow actors around. And I think they were finding their footing. And for anyone who loves film history, I think everyone would agree with me that there are some gems in the late 60s where the new Hollywood really starts popping, but they start owning it in the 70s. That's when you can see them all figuring it out. So if you are to look at, in terms of film appreciation, if you look at this as a stepping stone, it's very important.
I know. The thing that bugs me is like this won the Oscar for best editing. But if you watch the chase scene, the car he's chasing loses 6 hubcaps.
Also, you know why it should have lost best editing? So this car, a Mustang Fastback 1968, which is actually Steve McQueen's own personal car, or at least he bought it from the movie. It sold at auction January 10th, 2020. So this year, somehow before COVID-19, it's almost like they knew we need to get this done quick. It sold at auction for $3.7 million, including auction fees. $3.7 million, 2020. And it was having a chase sequence with a Dodge Charger. The Mustang Fastback was being chased by a Dodge Charger. I think they fucked that one up because I think the Mustang wins every time. Even though I know most Mustangs are driven by tall white guys with small penises, I still think the Mustang wins every time.
That's true. That's a true statement. I'm going to.
Jeff, everyone's just angry they don't own a Mustang, but yeah.
All right. Anything else?
So I know we've. Yeah. Well, I kind of want to ask specifically. It sounds like you had a frustrating watch, Dave. Jeff, it sounds like you were kind of intermittent. How did you guys feel about the ending? The final punctuation on the way you were supposed to feel about this film, story, tone, everything. Like, what did you think about literally the last shot of him going home after it's been solved, day in the life, or a couple days in the life of this lieutenant? What did you think?
I wish he played the saxophone like The Conversation. You know, where he walks up to his apartment and just starts fucking playing sax? Gene Hackman.
And just destroys his apartment.
To be honest,
sorry, Dave, I didn't mean to jump in here, but I think the girlfriend character in this, who has a nice scene, actually holds the movie back. I don't think they need it. This movie is going to fail the Bechdel test. No, I know, but the movie was going to fail the Bechdel test anyway. And so out of nowhere, like 2 hours in, she was like, "All you care about is your work, and your work is so dirty." And it's like, we are so close to solving this movie. I'm so sorry, but like, this is not the time. And then at the end, he goes home, and she decided to stay. And I didn't care about that at all. I don't think I've ever unbuzzed anyone, but Jeff, you're unbuzzed.
You know what, dude? Let's talk about that really quickly.
It's not her fault, but for me,
let's talk about that really quickly.
For me, seeing her that she hadn't left does nothing to the rest of the story. That's what I was gonna say.
Had no significance whatsoever for me. By this point, I was out.
Yeah,
See,
they
and that
didn't
was
need-
one of
they
those
didn't need her, yeah.
moments that was one of those. Now we're getting technical, but like, and maybe they thought about this in the editing room, but it doesn't look like they covered it at all. I thought that was a missed opportunity. There's this scene we're talking about, folks, where she sees a dead body at a crime scene that he is investigating, and it really upsets her. And she has this moment where she confronts him and says, "You see, how are you okay? How are you not desensitized to life? How can you keep living normally and see this all the time?" And they cover him the entire scene, literally the back of her head the entire time. So clearly they want us to hang on his point of view. I thought they missed an opportunity for us to get a little, to earn a little mystery by finally empathizing with somebody other than him. I thought it was actually going to raise the stakes if we would have seen what she was going through, because they were clearly trying to write a woman that was in his life that was trying to poke some holes in his, you know, kind of calloused police lieutenant perspective. And he's not a villain. It was just, I thought it would have made it even more interesting because he is such a nice man. He's very kind. He's very respectful to everyone he comes in contact with in this movie, everyone. And I thought it was a missed opportunity. And then at the very end, he basically comes home and goes back to her. And did you feel like anything was changed at all? Did you feel like anything happened to him by the end of it?
I checked out by that point, to be honest.
Oh.
No.
No,
It was just a slice of life kind of feel for you, Dave?
Mm-hmm.
I think I do, because he got played. I mean, he did get played, but he got played an hour before the ending. So it was more like we were finally getting his, not comeuppance, we were finally getting his, what's the word I'm looking for? Like he's finally, he can finally,
atonement?
Not even redemption, like just kind of like, what is it when you break up with someone and then a year later you have a dinner with them and it's like, yes, he finally got his closure. It's almost what it seemed like.
Yeah.
It didn't even seem like a redemptive moment. I don't know. That's what
I liked
that
that last moment. That last moment didn't bother me. I just remember thinking, as much as I appreciate how this movie is ending, I wish the scene with her, the conflict scene, had done something different, because it would have made this moment so much more powerful. I think it would have made this entire movie land differently had I feel, stronger about the fact that he was coming home with that kind of closure on, like, wow, I just got fucked. I just got fucked hard.
I was also bummed because the only available parking space was in front of a fire hydrant. So he walks up into the apartment to see her, and all I was thinking was, okay, she's there. Now go and move your car. Like, you can park around the corner, okay? Like, this is, what if there's a fire?
Just leave your hazards on.
Asshole.
I'm also going to say, anyone who's listening, this is my pitch. How is Bullitt not a series yet? How is this not a series, dude? This guy, this is a great character. Cool. We should make a female, anyone. I don't give a fuck. Some police lieutenant
five
is
seasons of someone driving around a fucking car.
Yeah,
I know, but he's a good cop. He's actually a good person. Like, it's kind of a rare cop character. I respected the fact that they did something. It was not a cliche cop. It was a unique police officer.
Maybe let it be. I don't like. Maybe only he could do it. Maybe let it be.
There were some.
Dave hated this movie.
There were some really cool shots. It's not often you hold a master and then people leave the frame and then different people walk into it. I know that's hyper specific, but they did that in the hospital at one point where somebody said the patient he's in cardiac arrest, and then everybody leaves the frame. And then other people run in with a stretcher, and then doctors run, and then cops, and they hold the frame. You just don't see stuff like that. So I appreciate that. I don't know.
Letting them inside.
Yeah. And then you have like other detectives and people. They do some really interesting things. So I don't think it was a bad movie. Sorry, Dave, but
no, you don't
I understand how 4 years later,
I didn't
directors
like it.
took the note, basically.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
All right.
Still probably worth watching, especially if you're a cinephile, just so you can see what happened historically.
Do not base your opinion on mine. I didn't enjoy it. You might. A lot of people, I'm sure, did. So by all means, have a look at it.
Steve McQueen, one of the 6 pallbearers at Bruce Lee's funeral. Give it up. That guy was in a good crowd.
If that's not a reason to watch the movie, what is?
I apologize to anybody who's ever driven a Mustang. I apologize. I love Ford versus Ferrari. All right, we will be back in a second. But first, we need to announce our year for next year. Dave, you got this queued up, ready to go?
Brace yourself.
All right, next week we will be doing films from the film year.
1997.
Oh my God, are we going to do Titanic?
No, God damn it. Oh,
Yeah, we're
oh, I know. I'm voting for it.
We're gonna
I
have a
already
discussion.
know.
So,
All right,
fans,
we're gonna be
we'll
right
see you in a
back.
second.
We're gonna have a
Can't wait.
discussion about that. We're gonna come right back.
All right, bye. And we're back.
We are back. Brace
Jesus.
yourselves.
We are going to announce the 3 films. Jesus, John, you okay? We are going to be announcing the 3
John, you got
films
a little bit of intestine hanging out.
for our next episode. 2 of them are available to stream. So go ahead and stay tuned to the end of this podcast so that you
Yes.
could watch with us and be prepared for our next
The
episode
other one
next
you'll
week.
want to rent.
But first, we need to do our redemption episode. Or was it really that bad? Or was it good? I just only saw it when I was 5. I forget the new
Yes.
name.
Was it
of
only
Yeah,
good because I
basically.
was 5?
This is Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. You guys know Chitty Chitty Bang Bang because the song has been made fun of by many people, including Family Guy. It's actually a pretty good
Oh,
song. Here's what I
Family
would,
Guys come out swinging with a couple of songs.
yeah. Let's go ahead and say what Chitty Chitty Bang Bang is about. If you haven't seen it in a while, is it's Mary Poppins, but if Mary Poppins was a car.
No, it's Mary Poppins, but if Mary Poppins said no and they cast someone else.
That's it. Well, no, you know who they cast? They cast Julie
Buzz.
Andrews. They cast. Julie Andrews did
I'll
say no,
drink it
and they
anyway.
cast her replacement from My Fair Lady on Broadway. That is a
I mean,
true
good call.
story. This girl looks just
It's a
like Mary
good call.
Julie Andrews. Anyway, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang is the name of a car, I think.
It
The
is.
movie opens. It's a musical. The movie opens really, really fun, if I'm honest with you. It was like Ford versus Ferrari, but in 1968. It was really cool. So it opens with all these Grand Prix footage. I'm guessing it was all made for this movie. This movie lost
Again,
a lot
in
of
the
money.
dark,
Yes, it was.
like 2001, right? The silence and the
Yeah,
car noises.
I was
like-
creeped out. There was a lot of car noises at first, and I was like, what the
The-
fuck
the
happened to my
black screen?
visual? So they go to like, I don't know, let's just say France, 1906 Grand Prix. And then they show all these little cars racing. Germany from 1907 Grand Prix. Britain, 1908 Grand Prix. So there's all these car chase sequences. And then the movie opens, and it turns out that Dick Van Dyke is basically Belle's father from Beauty and the Beast. He's this crazy, wacky inventor with 2 kids that just run around and almost die
All
every
right.
day.
Sorry. I'm going to stop you for a second. We point out this was written by Ian Fleming, the same
Wait,
guy that wrote
the
James
n-
Bond.
Wait, hold on a second. It
and
wasn't
was
just
produced
written.
by Broccoli.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, you guys saw who adapted the screenplay, though, right?
Yeah. Roald Dahl.
Roald Dahl. A fucking Willy
course.
Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, the
Of course.
BFG.
And you can tell exactly when his work fucking kicks in. I can tell you that.
he was not the original screenwriter. Oh wait, hold on. Come on, we gotta set
When
this
they're
up
on
for
that
people.
beach.
We've got to set this
Yeah,
up.
yeah,
We got
yeah.
to set this up for people.
Yeah.
So these children, we don't know they're Dick Van Dyke's children yet. They love playing around this old car shop or this
I'm
old
still not
shop
sure
or
if
whatever.
they're Dick
Honestly,
Van
I don't know
Dyke's
what the
children.
fuck is going on. They're playing around at this shop and they really like this car, and the car gets sold for scraps or whatever. And the kids go home to their dad, who it turns out to be his Dick Van Dyke, to tell him that, oh, you have to buy our car, which is really expensive, so that we can play in the car because they skip
Yeah.
school.
So,
These
so they're,
fucking
they're
school
like
cutters.
kids today, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
on the way home, they're running in the road because they're little nincompoop kids. And a woman, who's in a very, very, she's in a very, very nice dress. She rides her car into a swamp, which, by the way, I don't know what she was complaining about because that backed out of the swamp really, really well. So anyway, she was complaining that the kids were in the way and they weren't in school. And so she insists on seeing their father, and they fall in love over the course of 2 hours and 25 minutes. The longest
Not
movie
yet.
musical that I've ever
That's
seen.
not movie time either. That is
God.
that's real time.
I saw that in dog years. Anyway, I was like, this is
Yeah.
8 and a half. Anyway,
I mean, okay, look,
the movie's fun. Anyway, first impressions. Go ahead.
I love the set design. Like, I love the. You can see
Uh-oh.
the. You can
Uh-oh.
see
He's
the
talking
love.
about the technical elements
With the
first.
You can
Yes.
see the love that went into this production design, and like they don't make sets like that anymore. Fuck you, John.
They don't.
And-
They don't. You're right.
Yeah.
It was fucking amazing. I
It
know.
was like every single place they went that wasn't an established location was like built with
it was cool.
love. And I
No,
feel
not
like-
with love. This was with non-union labor, Dave. This was not built with love. That's the only
It's
way they
just
made
a
this
fact.
movie for $10 million.
No,
Okay,
no, but also like
they destroyed
the thing is, you
75
can-
cars before this movie started. Okay, this was not with love.
Dude, I've ridden in one of these cars. I rode in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang when I was a kid.
Do you know
Like,
who
I-
owns Chitty Chitty Bang Bang?
Do you know who owns it now? Do you know who owns it
Peter
now?
Jackson owns it, one of them now. But yeah, like a guy about 10 miles outside my hometown of Wingham, New South Wales, Australia, owned one of these and took me for a ride in it when I was a kid. It was amazing. It was great. I'd seen the movie and there's the fucking car and I'm going for a ride and it was magical.
Did you notice how long the movie was when you were a child and you saw this movie?
I did not. I didn't notice how long the movie was when I was a child. Because when you're a child, let's face it, time has different meaning.
No meaning, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I love the set design, and like I'm appreciating this as an adult who's seen the movie as a kid. And also, I'm sorry, Dick Van Dyke, man, does that man not ever make a fantastic entrance?
Yeah, his entrances are awesome.
And also he has this like unique ability to overact but make it completely natural.
Sorry, I gotta just pipe in here for a second. I saw an Instagram video the other day, and it was Dick Van Dyke today. And this woman was like twerking around him, and he's so ancient. And he was just sitting there, like watching her with that smile on his face. He was just like digging it.
Thanks, John. That's a great
Keep
input.
going.
Back to you, Dave.
Wow. Yeah. No, I'm just like, he is, and it was funny because I was like, what is it about him? And my wife put her finger right on the button. It was like, he's a joyful performer. He loves to perform.
I mean, dude, he is a true song and dance man.
Yeah.
Like that, we don't use that term much anymore. Hugh Jackman might be the last one alive, but like
Right.
Dick Van Dyke comes from like a different period, dude. That vaudeville period. He cut his teeth watching Gene Kelly come up and stuff. Like he's
Buster
a different
Keaton.
kind of actor.
He loved.
I'll tell you what,
Buster fucking Keaton, yeah.
This start, like, ironically, given the three movies we covered tonight, this movie starts in complete black.
Yeah.
With just the sound of revving engines, and I had flashbacks to both 2001 and Bullitt, which I'd seen
me
before
too.
this.
Me too.
I was like, fuck, yeah.
You know what's funny about this movie is I don't know what you guys remember of it other than the songs. Which, by the way, I don't know if you remember this, but the song "Chitty Chitty Bang Bang" drops a fucking beat before it starts. I was listening, and it was basically like the engine revving turned into a beat, and it was like,
well, no, the name Chitty Chitty
and
Bang
I literally
Bang
was like,
is
what is
based
this
on
fucking beat that is getting
It's
dropped?
based on the name of the cars. They were Chitty Bang Bang.
It was
That's what they
fucking
were
hot.
called.
Yeah, but it was in time. It was good.
Yeah.
That was good shit. Anyway, they also sang the song 17 times throughout the course of the movie.
Too many
same
times.
song. The same
Jesus
song.
Christ.
It's not a
Still
reprise.
Not even a good song.
Okay. They sang it 17 times during the movie, but still less than they used "Live and Let Die" during that Bond film.
True. True.
If our bar is "Live and Let Die," we're in a dangerous position.
Wait, hold on. Let's get back. Shout out to our fans that listen to our "Live and Let Die" segment. Anyway, I literally I didn't have it written, but I took some notes because I thought I was about to give an impassioned speech about how, John, I know you and I both agree. We are not ashamed to say we have bachelors of fine arts degrees in musical theater, music theater to be specific. But we are also both very hard on movie musicals, which is not customary in our age group. So especially in these older films, I'm very hard on movie musicals and these whole things. Honestly, American in Paris, just release it as a dance. Like, seriously, that dance sequence is the whole movie. We don't need anything else. Anyway,
I mean, I don't have a BFA. I've just toured 20-something musicals.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Dave is a lot of work in music. Yeah, I'm not sure tripping it. But all I'm saying is I was ready to give, because Dave, what you said about Dick Van Dyke, where it's like, he's so crazy, but it works. It's still real. That you have to do that in musical. I literally was about to give an impassioned speech about how what movie musicals do wrong every single time is they try to preach realism on the screen. Nobody in real life sings. No. So it's like the one thing we know about musicals is they sing their thoughts. And the one thing we know about realism is that people don't sing their thoughts. So that contradicts itself 100% of the time. And movie musicals fall into it every single time. And the ones that don't, Wizard of Oz, is not in realism. The Sound of Music is sort of in realism, but it's also in this heightened ethereal. There's more going on than just real life. There's like more going on. So it's like the perfect blend of that. But like, don't even get me started on other movie musicals that try to figure this out. Chicago is the best contemporary example.
Absolutely.
Because it's shows within shows. She's always performing her thoughts. She's not just
that
singing
ruined
them
the
in real
stage
life.
show for me.
It's amazing. Cabaret gets away with it too. It does the same thing. Even West Side Story, it's on a stage. Even though they're pretending to be in the Upper West Side, it's on a stage. This movie starts out and there's an overture, but not an opening number, because the movie is about the kids and the car. It's not about the singing and the dancing like Grease 2, where they just open with a number because they're a musical, and you're like, what the fuck,
do not
man?
bring that
Exactly.
fucking thing up.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And so his first song, when he finally sings, it's like he earned it. And then somewhere about halfway through, every 10 seconds, there's a new fucking song in this movie. And all of a sudden it becomes 17 hours long. And you're like, get me out of here. Because it's like, I know that the songs are great selling points for everybody, but you have to care about the story. I can't imagine rewatching this movie. And there was some really good stuff in here that kept me really entertained. And I hope I never see it again. That's my speech.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what,
honestly,
for me, this movie has what so many films these days are missing, and that's just a big old fucking heart.
Yeah.
Like, you can feel the heart in this movie. Granted, in the middle, it kind of takes a dive and then you come back towards the end, but like, it's just fun to watch. It's fun to rewatch. I saw this in the cinema when it came out. I was like 5.
Right.
I'm not kidding. That's why we renamed the segment. But I watched it again. It was like I was almost 5 again.
It's
and
true.
I really sat back and enjoyed
it.
And it has so many really good messages. Like, it's okay to fail and try again and stuff like that. And it's okay to
Dave. Oh my god, I see the gush. It's okay to fail and try again?
Yeah, it's
Dave
okay to fail and try again.
I'm pretty sure he's seen every single one.
No, but like Disney doesn't do that. Okay, shut up. All right, yeah. But yeah.
Disney, that's all they do.
The inventor, let's say, the inventor trope, like Disney owns that, right?
Yeah, that's their trope.
They invented the inventor trope. I kept thinking the same thing. The whole time I was watching this, I kept thinking 2 things that I wanted to ask you guys. First, I remember saying to myself, I would love to watch this with my kids if I ever had children.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's really inventive. I had a lot of fun. I laughed. A lot of the comedy that I laughed at is my favorite kind of comedy that I appreciated.
I wrote down one that I know you're going to like. We'll talk about it later. I wrote down one that I know you
really
like
physical, ridiculous, just over the top, stupid stuff, just like really physical comedy.
The
second thing I was thinking was, I'm not sure what's a bigger acid trip, 2001 or Chitty Chitty Bang Bang 2.
Yeah.
This was
I can't even buzz that.
Insane, dude. This was insane.
You could zone out for 2 minutes and all of a sudden they're in Bulgaria. And you can sit there and go, when did we get here? And I don't know the answer. I don't know.
Anytime you
invoke
Roald Dahl, we don't know where the acid trip starts. Like,
yeah, Dave.
I think my favorite part is when, with no previous justification, the car has taken off. They have fallen off a cliff. First of all, how different would this movie be if they plummeted to their fucking deaths at the end of Act 1?
I'd be a lot fucking shorter, that's for sure.
The car takes off and it's flying. And you're like, okay, this is what I came to see this movie for. This car's finally fucking flying. It only took a whole act to get there. And then it's in the middle of the night. Sorry. It's in the middle of the night. Kids are asleep. She looks at him and she says, do you know where we are? He says, for no previous justification. This has not happened at all. There's been no hint of this. He says, you know what? I don't. But I think we're in pretty good hands. I think Chitty knows where to go.
Yeah.
They haven't even hinted at the fact that this car has a mind of its own.
Yeah,
and
this is not Kirby Fully Loaded. This is not Thomas the Tank Engine or Daniel Tiger. All of a sudden he's like, Chitty knows where to go. Like I just bought a Volkswagen Tiguan. If I went off a cliff and flew, I would not sit there and go, I knew it. I knew.
I mean, why the fuck would you drive off a cliff to begin with?
Oh my favorite piece of trivia on this movie, I'm looking at some IMDb trivia, is that Dick Van Dyke was smoking 40 cigarettes a day and struggled with some of the dance numbers.
Yeah, shit. Did they have no idea?
Okay, no, that was the Me Old Bamboo number, which you may
I know you could tell, dude.
You may recognize from Family Guy, which did a parody called A Bag of Weed.
Bag of weed and a bag of weed and a bag of weed.
Yeah.
Shapoopy's from Music Man.
Shapoopy's from Music Man, yeah.
They do
but I'll tell you what though, like Dick Van Dyke, at that point he'd been diagnosed with arthritis through his body.
Yeah.
If I tried to dance like that, my testicles would be around my ears.
I mean, it was incredible,
Yeah.
dude. Like, only a master
Like,
could do that. And his raggedy
I would
Andy
cause myself some
toy-
serious fucking damage.
His toy performance at the end was great. He's still
he's
fucking
the only one
Big
that
Van
could
Dyke.
be that
if you
toy
wanna throw
and
down
also
Mary-
look like he can
Dude.
drink with Sinatra. You know what I mean?
Dude,
Like, he's
well,
the
I
only
mean,
person that can pull
he
it
was
off.
in the middle of alcoholism during this movie, but like seriously, like
Yeah,
even,
around
like,
kids, and the director
Mary-
kept cursing at
yeah.
the kids, and he kept telling the director stuff.
Mary Poppins Returns. He's still busting out a fucking move, and the guy apparently is riddled
what do
with
we-
arthritis. Like,
what do we think?
He's magical.
He is magic. He is.
What do you think? I for one, I respect his choice to not even attempt an English accent this time because
No, it was
Yeah.
in his contract that he said, "I will accept this as long as I don't have to do an English accent."
He
Shout
turned
out
down
to Mary
James Bond.
Poppins. Mary Poppins.
So I respect that. But let's start. All right, so let's get real here for a second. Let's try to redeem this. Sherman and Sherman, the brothers who worked at Disney for
They
a lot of their career.
They wrote Mary Poppins in the Jungle Book.
This did not work for me. If I'm being totally honest with you, this I agree with you, Jeff. Yeah, fuck it. I'll
Some
drink. I don't
things
care.
did. I had fun at some parts, but
There were some moments that good. I don't even think there was an entire song that really worked for me. There was a whole lot of, as I said to Jeff last week, we were talking about catching up on Grease too. Whenever musicals get into that place of we're here and we're singing, and isn't that enough? It just makes me
the
uncomfortable.
answer
And I feel like
is no.
yeah, 80%
love
of the
singing.
numbers in
I
this
do.
musical were only sung because it was a musical. And I still had, even within those not great songs, I still laughed a decent amount.
Yeah.
There were still some really funny performances.
Yeah.
But I just felt like it took away from it. It was almost a shame because I thought Roald Dahl's adaptation was awesome.
Apparently that was
Yeah, I don't know.
rewritten, but yeah.
Wait, say that again, Dave.
You really what?
Apparently that was rewritten by the director.
Oh,
What was?
He claims that he rewrote the entire script.
The entire script, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, somebody, it's probably Lionel Jeffries, the guy who wrote the book. Somebody fucking loves cars.
yeah.
And that was I know,
They
I know
probably
it's
watched
obvious,
Bullitt.
but like it almost kind of took away from it a little bit because I felt like this movie was trying to get me in the point of view of the children, which the children were great. That girl who played the Jemima, and the boy was good too, but she was really
That
she
was
was
the-
really special.
I mean, that was the only film
And-
she ever did.
And, yeah, who knows
She-
what
she-
happened? Child
no,
stardom.
she
She died
never did
long ago
anything-
from
yeah, she never did
intense drug
anything about
overdose.
that. Yeah.
No, no,
I'm kidding.
no, no.
I'm kidding. But if we were supposed to get into the point of view of these kids, I remember feeling like there was a dominating sense of automobile love and almost like a weird fetish that kind of got in the way of it, of the story for me. And
I mean-
kind of cut into the middle of the point of view because, like, Jeff, as much as I agree with you, that opening was pretty cool. I remember thinking, like, that's not why those kids love this car.
There was some
Those
subtle
kids
stuff
have
that
a different
was,
emotional attachment
some
to it.
subtle
There's
stuff
something
thrown in as
more
well.
magical.
like the
Say that
director
again,
threw in
Jen?
the director threw in some subtle stuff, like when Chitty puts out the floats and like is able to float on water, like the colors of that, and in particular the colors of the medal of the Baron later, are actually the colors of the women's suffrage movement in 1968
Wow.
as well. There's
Pretty
some
cool.
subtle political statements in there as well.
Pretty cool.
How about, can we just talk about the big picture issue too? That upset me at the end of it. I was like, what the fuck? When he basically
Did they
tells
just get
her,
rich?
I can't be with you because you're rich. And I thought it was mature. She comes back at him and says, if I said that to you, you would think I'm a snob. And I was like, good for her. Maybe this
Yeah.
movie might be more interesting than I thought it was going to be. And then he goes home and gets rich. And now he can be with her.
But I mean, no, seriously. Don't you love a happy ending? I mean, they met last week. They went on one date. They got engaged. That's totally going to end well.
That was the
Okay,
that was
that's
the
some
first.
stupid.
That
That's
was the
stupid.
first.
Yeah.
I could not stop thinking about that too. When we come out of this fucking acid trip Roald Dahl hallucination that has taken place in their first outing together, the kids say, and then Julie and Daddy get married, and she looks at him and says, "Is that how this ends?"
Dude,
Yeah, that's weird.
seriously,
What the
it's a
fuck?
Roald did
it's
not
a
write that. I
throwback
know
to
he did
Grease
not write
too.
that.
It's like,
He did not
no,
write that,
you will be okay and find luck in love if you can change yourself.
I mean, forget about the messaging. Like, if you could just
Yeah.
invent bubblegum that makes you, yeah, for sure. But look, some of the numbers were great. All I'm saying is, if this was just the car sequences and then the kids, and then they want the dad to buy the car for them, and he's an inventor and he finds this woman. That's enough right there. Why the grandpa goes, he gets airlifted to Bulgaria, and then the car has to, all of a sudden it's like, is the movie Alice in Wonderland
all over again?
Or is like what, like it just got out of control. Like all of a sudden I was like really laying a nice yellow brick road to some like fucking Emerald City, and then all of a sudden I have no idea why there's a guy who can smell children is the central character now. All of a sudden this guy's like, my nose has never let me down. I know how to sniff kids, and then he's running around looking for kids with his nose.
I mean,
and I was like,
the funniest thing is that child
here.
catcher was voted one of the scariest characters on film. I mean, Voldemort is not, but he is creepy, and he did inspire Marilyn Manson's fucking album.
I believe that.
Apparently,
that nose was
that
good.
character
The
was
nose
good.
is huge.
That was pretty cool. It was very Roald Dahl. I appreciated that. I thought a lot of performances were amazing. Like again, I feel like they cast all these incredible, hilarious English actors.
Mary Poppins was their dress rehearsal, because it was basically just Mary Poppins, this movie. Some of the songs too were basically like, this is where the lost things go. It's like the same shit.
The Baron's cohorts, his little entourage were hysterical. All their little physical bits were great. He was really funny.
I mean, the
I thought
Baron,
the grandpa was funny, but both of his numbers should have been cut.
the Baron,
When he gets the
the
I
Baron
love
was
traveling.
Blofeld from fucking James Bond, if I'm not mistaken. Like he was a
The posh number, his
he wasn't
traveling
Blofeld.
posh number.
He was Goldfinger. The Baron was Goldfinger from James Bond.
That's true.
I'm not even kidding. Same actor.
Isn't that Lionel Jeffries? Isn't he the guy who wrote?
Yeah.
Right? That is Lionel
Potts.
Jeffries. Why does he call him Grandpa to his face when the children aren't in the room?
So that the audience
The really
knows
funny
this
thing is,
the
like, Dick Van Dyke was 6 months older than that guy.
True. Yeah, they had a Golden Girls thing going on. Lord Scrumptious. Like, seriously, like, when did they go down the rabbit hole? The car flew, and now all of a sudden, like, at least with Alice, when the hallucinogenics hit. Like, with this, all of a sudden, they hit, and I was like, I forgot I took drug.
I didn't know I took them. Honestly, I didn't realize I took them.
It was. I still think some of the numbers are really, really fun, and Dick Van Dyke is great.
Okay, look, and posing the original question, was it only good because I was 5?
Maybe.
I think it was still good for me. It was still good for me.
Yes.
So much of it was for me.
Like,
so much of it was for me.
Like, if you're a fan of pop culture and you want to see where half that came from, watch this film.
Yeah, I don't think I'll ever watch it again as an adult.
Me
but
either.
I would definitely watch it with
I
kids.
will not
Maybe
either.
No. You mean not as an adult. You mean not with children.
Yeah, as a lone adult. I
Now
don't know
that-
if I'll
yeah,
ever sit
as an
down.
adult, if I
and
ever
watch
become a
this
child
again.
again, I'll see it.
Thanks,
By
Jeff.
myself.
Thanks, Jeff, for drilling that home. Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
There really was fun stuff. Watch it with your kids. It's long, so cut out about half an hour. Just skip the Bulgaria
It was
thing.
one of my wife's favorite movies. She used to watch it with her mom all the time. So we really dug it. So.
I totally get. I can see the sentimental value, and it really does. The score really does sound like Mary Poppins, not just because it's the same composers, but because they use the cut songs from Mary Poppins. I mean, it sounds exactly the same. It really, really does.
It really does. Yeah, they have a specific style.
I feel like we drummed it up enough. Should we move on?
Yeah, I think we gave it the accurate amount of both positive and critical.
Yeah, I mean, this is if you're stuck in the house and you need something to watch to entertain the kids, this might do it.
Amazon Prime available
Amazon
for
Prime, dude.
streaming.
Yeah.
All right, friends, another good podcast, I would say, if I could say so myself.
Next
Shall
week,
we introduce the films we're going to be watching next week? Dave,
ooh,
what do you think?
we're going to 1987. We're going to watch Jackie Brown,
Uh-huh. Quentin
Boogie
Tarantino.
Nights,
Boogie Nights.
and the Grease 2 of speed movies, Speed 2.
Wow. Oh my god.
Oh,
Gee,
sorry.
I hope we can redeem this film. John, are you excited about the Tarantino Paul Thomas Anderson show off at the beginning of our pod next week?
I'm enormously excited. I'm very excited, and I'm
Have-
very
wait, have-
curious to rewatch Speed 2.
Have any of us seen Jackie Brown? Is there a thing? Because I feel like
I
I've
have
seen a
not.
scene of
I
it,
have
but
not.
I don't think I've seen the
No,
whole
it's
thing.
the one I haven't seen. I don't know
I've
why,
definitely
but it
seen
hasn't
like a De
happened.
Niro
Yeah.
scene where he's like he's like in a guinea tea and he's like basically like Raging Bull, but the second half where he's fat. I just don't remember the rest of the movie. Anyway,
I'm excited, dude. Yeah, I feel bad. I haven't seen it. It's the only Tarantino movie he did not write himself, so it should be interesting.
wow. All right, film fans, thanks for being with us for another week. We will see you next week for the film of 1997.